this video, we will be looking for matches with a high chance of a second half goal. Match selection is vital for using this strategy, so with the aid of CGMBet, we will be showing you a couple of methods for selecting the best matches for this strategy. The first method will be based on the Trading the Market second half goal strategy, which is linked below. The second method is a subset of this, which just looks for games where a goal is scored in our target window a high proportion of the time. We will be using the upcoming module in CGMBet for this exercise. As usual, we will go slowly to allow you to copy our steps. Without further ado, let's begin. As I'm filming this video on the Thursday between Christmas and New Year, there are virtually no games in the leagues that CGMBet covers. Because of this, I'm going to get CGMBet to profile the next 3-day games. Normally, I would only look at the current day. The first thing we need to do is to remind ourselves of the rules that TTM suggests that we use. These are, number 1, the favourite has got odds of under 2.0 at kick-off. Number 2, the second half goal chance is above 60%. Number 3, the over 1.5 goal chance is above 90%. And number 4, the over 2.5 goal chance is above 60%. We will leave the favourite odds alone for now, as first we need to calculate the chances of the other 3 measures. Let's start with the second half goal chances. We click the home criteria and we come down to the over measure. We leave game as it is and we set this at 0.5. We then repeat this process for the away team and we set it just to look at the last 8 games. And also we need to set the time range for this. You could leave it to do the entire second half, but my preference is to start at 55 minutes. I like to wait to see how the game's developing in the second half, and also the odds are going to drop significantly on the overs market in this time. Sure, we may miss a goal or 2, but that's just my preference. So once we've got that in place, we need to add another measure, and this time we're looking for the percentage of games for home and away teams with over 1.5 goals. So we change the overs to 1.5. We look at the last 8 games and we leave this at full time this time. We want the whole game to be evaluated, and we do the same for the away team. Like so. And then we need to do exactly the same again, but with the 2.5 goal market. So we add another measure over 2.5 goals and we do exactly the same for the away team. And again we set that to the last 8 games and we leave that at full time. So once we've done that, we now need to hit the refresh button. Make sure we click calculate all columns so that all of our 3 measures are going to be calculated at once, and hit refresh. Okay, so that should give us the data that we need. So we've got our chances of a second half goal for the home and the away. So the home team stats are orange, the away team stats are blue, and the chances of over 1.5 goal in the game and the chances of over 2.5 goals in the game, all based on the last 8 games that both teams have played. Now this is fine, but we need to work out the chances of there being a second half goal in our game, and also the combined chances of both teams scoring over 1.5 and 2.5. We can use custom columns to do this in CGMBet, but as we've got 3 measures that we need to calculate and only 2 custom fields, we've got a slight issue here, but we can overcome it by using something called a boolean type query. Now a boolean type query returns true or false rather than an arithmetic calculation. Don't worry too much about it at this stage, all will become clear as I'll demonstrate. So in our scenario, what we need to type in here is the measure at home 1 plus the measure at away 1 divided by 2 and that is our first half, so our second half goal percentage, and that needs to be greater than or equal to 60. And then we also need to do the home 2 measure plus the away 2 measure, divide that by 2, and that needs to be greater than or equal to 90, which is our likelihood of over 1.5 goals. And finally we do the home 3 measure plus the away 3 measure, divide that by 2, and that has to be greater than or equal to 60, which is our second half, our 2.5 goal measure. And we will add custom 2 in here, which will be our second method, which we will come to later on in the demonstration, but we won't worry about it for now. We will just put that in there, and we click on calculate, and we tick that box, so we recalculate those. So you can see for custom 1, we've got 1s and 0s in there, which is our boolean. So 1 is true and 0 is false. So what this means is, to have a 1 in there, the home and the away teams' average second half goal percentages need to be above 60. The home and away average for over 1.5 goals in the game needs to be above 90. And the home and away average for over 2.5 goals in a game has to be above 60. So we've managed to get all of our logic into one field there, which is great. It's nice and compact. So now all we need to do is we need to go to custom and select home. As far as custom is concerned, home is custom 1 and away is custom 2, and we just leave that as more than 1. Even though it's equal, it still recognises that, and we just change the filter for custom, turn that on, and that will give us our games. All we need to do now is to select the odds. So we do that in the bottom left hand corner under filters, and we've got odds, and I always go between 1 and 1.9, and if we apply that, then that gives us our games. The reason I go for 1.9 is because CGMBet doesn't currently contain the Betfair exchange odds, so I've got mine set to look at Bet365. So I'll stop at 1.9 because that gives me a bit of headroom for the difference in odds. As far as this strategy goes, I've deliberately omitted the TTM magic number and relevance measures. You can dig deeper into these once you've got your selected games to see if you're following the TTM method to the letter, if these games are relevant to those 2 measures as well. So now we've got our list of games. I always drill further into them. So select your game, right click and go head to head, and then I'll go home versus away, which gives you the home team's home games and the away team's away games. And if you scroll over to the right, we can now see the goal times. Now this is quite hard to read on small monitors. The dark notches at the top are 10-minute intervals. So for our second half goal, we're looking at 10, 20, 30, 40. So somewhere in this region here is a second half goal. So we can see that Arsenal tend to score early in the second half, in the first 10 to 12 minutes, which is the green notch. The orange notch is when they concede. And they also score late on in the games as well. Whereas in the middle period of the second half, they tend not to score. So that may influence entry points for you. If we do the same with West Ham, just come across here. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 45. So again, they tend to have a mixture of scoring and conceding in the first 10 minutes of the second half. A little bit of activity in the middle of the half. And again, they tend to concede quite a lot of late goals. So that might be an interesting angle for you if you're looking at late goals as part of your strategy. We can change these views just to look at 5-minute blocks. So obviously green is when they scored, and orange is when they conceded, and yellow is when they scored and conceded in that 5 minutes. Just improves the readability, but no other benefit from using that really. One other thing I look for is the goals analyzer of the game. So this looks at similar games to the one that we've selected here, which is Arsenal versus West Ham being played this evening at the time of recording. So what I do here is look at the chance of there being over 0.5 goals more than whatever the current score is. So if it's 1-0 when I'm entering this strategy, I'm looking at the over 1.5 figures here. Even though on the exchange you'll be laying over 2.5, what we're looking for is really what chance does the software think there is of getting one more goal. So if it was 1-0 at half time, say to Arsenal, then we can see here at 55 minutes there's 46.27 chance of another goal being scored, and by the 60th minute that's gone up to 52% chance or likelihood of another goal being scored, right up to 77% at full time. So it's quite hard to get your head around initially, these screens, but they do kind of unearth some interesting angles where if a late goal is scored, then you can kind of see what benefits they will give you. Finally, we go back to the other measure we looked at, which is the custom 2, and this just looks at the likelihood of a second half goal purely based on the data for this measure. Now we calculated this earlier, so all we need to do is go to custom and change that. I'll use 60%, but depending on your risk appetite, you can change that to whatever you fancy. And if we just change the filter onto that, so we can see that there's a lot of games here which meet that criteria but don't meet the TTM rules. So it's pretty much horses for courses, I guess, and you choose whichever way you're happy with. This video is not intended to give you ready-made strategies. It's just designed to provoke thought so that you can see what is possible in the software and hopefully develop your own edge based on the capabilities of the software. If you've enjoyed watching this video, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. It tells us that you enjoy this type of content and motivates us to make more for you. If you want to know how to set up a particular scenario in CGMBet, leave a comment below and we'll endeavour to make a video covering that subject. Thanks for watching.